Another amazing guest. Who's our guest today?
I have Karin Cather from Arizona, uh, slash Virginia, because that's where I'm from, and we connected basically on Patrick O'Donnell, who has the Cops and Writers Facebook page. We connected on there because we were both contributing to writers who were wanting to know things about cops slash law enforcement. Found out that she's an attorney, had been a prosecuting attorney in Virginia, had moved out to Arizona, had done similar work, but also just having that interest in making sure that people writing their books, whatever it might be, from true crime to fiction, whatever genre, romance even, if they were putting something in about law enforcement at all or the legal system, to try to make sure they kind of get the dynamics, get it all correct, so it didn't sound, bizarre. And we connected there. We've been talking probably 3 years through the Facebook group, Cops and Writers. And lo and behold, in that talks, found out that besides her background as being an attorney and a prosecutor, that she was an editor and a writer, and that she had a new book, and it just came out, and it is A Million Monkeys. This is a space odyssey, police procedural, criminal investigative. It's a little of everything. It's very imaginative. It's super creative, well written. I mean, it's a great story. She did a good job. So, Karen, how about talking to us a little bit more about you, your background, and your book, please?
So yeah, I weirdly became a prosecutor to start with because my dad was one and then he was a defense attorney. And we had this apartment and it was actually like townhouses over businesses. And then it was this plaza and you had shoppers, but then occasionally people would come and there would be hand-to-hand drug sales.
Hmm.
So safe neighborhood. So
Good
the
neighborhood.
police would come and occasionally use our apartment as an observation point,
Yeah.
which was charming. My father taught me the grades of homicide, the degrees of homicide when I was about 6 years old while we were running errands in the car, you know, kind of present. Um, and then a family friend's child was Rustin's first murder victim uh,
Ah,
when
Oh,
named since
wow.
she was 17. And so there was this kind of crime element, element of crimes happening and how do you handle prosecute them and everything sort of growing up. And, I think like many people who might have gone into the criminal justice
hmm.
system, the same kind of warped sense of humor
Yeah.
and viewpoint that only got worse over time.
Hmm.
Um, so when I came out to Arizona, um, I'm going to be delicate about who's who, but there was a family member I was caring for who at the time had been diagnosed with autism from
Hmm.
an early age. Um, Very verbal, very,
Hmm.
very, very bright. But over time, there was a mental health component.
I
I
understand.
suspect in part because he was not a happy loner, but being rejected everywhere. Regardless, as his needs began to escalate in around 2012, 2013, it was clear that I could not continue to be a trial attorney and fulfill my responsibilities to this family member. So I left the practice of law and trained as an editor. So there was a 1 year series of courses
Wow.
with UC Berkeley Extension, um,
Hmm.
webinars. Um, I lurked and then posted on various editing Facebook pages, joined editing associations, the whole bit. I didn't just go to bed a lawyer and wake up an editor,
Gotcha.
but that's how I fell into editing. I
Hmm.
could work for myself from home. I could then close up my laptop as needed and respond to, deal with the treatment team, respond to emergencies. It began the my family member began to get sicker over time, and
Hmm.
um, now there's a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder as well.
Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
individual at this point is as back in the hospital.
Yeah.
So again, that's sort of how I fell into it. The other thing is that while I was a prosecutor, I did try not guilty by reason of insanity cases. One of them was a homicide. Um, in the course of becoming an editor, I had psychologists come to me and say that they needed me to edit. They needed their reports edited, so their forensic psychological reports. And that's now primarily what I do. Now I work primarily with a forensic psychiatrist.
Okay.
So a little bit away from the novel editing, although I still edit novel.
Well, it's very fascinating, but it's also uh, I'm going to probably say it's sort of a growing field with a limited number of people that have that ability, and you bring a dual, well, I'm sorry, even more than a dual.
Yes,
Uh,
sadly.
I would know triple, quadruple. You bring more to the table based on your legal training and expertise and years of experience. You're working in the child welfare area of legal as in addition to criminal prosecution, and then your personal experience with dealing with someone who's had the mental health issues on a variety and over years. So that's something. And then you trained in the editing. I mean, you're bringing a whole lot to a table for that for these attorneys that are out here that are seeking that need that, and need to know that the person who's looking it over really knows their stuff. You're bringing a lot to the table for that.
It's been an eye-opening. I mean, it's not just grammar, spelling, usage, and
Yeah.
punctuation. It's also reviewing sometimes. I think my record is 7,000 pages of
Wow.
discovery,
Oh, wow.
listing what they are and sort of summarizing it. The audience of my work being um, that information is going to the attorneys, perhaps the parties, depending on, what kind of case it is, while my client is sometimes writing the opinion section. It's a very different type of,
Yeah.
obviously I'm not commenting on things like, their conclusions, their
Yeah.
opinions. I don't know, my cat's more qualified to parallel park a semi than I am to do any of that.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive thing. And of course, just because I have this background as an attorney, if I see that if I could see that there's a legal issue, what I would do was tell my client to, connect back up with the attorney who retained them. I
Explore
also
it further.
step on the shoes of the
Yeah.
attorney who's retained them.
Right.
So there's a big difference between, I put myself in the position of a juror or a judge who just woke up and became a judge that day and doesn't know anything, and asking them to explain, the client to explain their position a little more clearly, because brilliant people sometimes think people know things that they don't. So it's a tightrope, but yes, so there we
Yeah.
are.
And then you got into writing, and you went the sci-fi, the whole, and you went all the way. You went sci-fi, law enforcement. You did it all. It was like
Well,
it's gonna be crime and space. So, and I'm looking. This is your book here, A
yes,
Million Monkeys. How long? It's not been out here very long. We're talking what, a month, 2 months,
couple months maybe.
couple months maybe. Yeah,
Couple months.
Amazon I know, but any
That's it.
place else?
No, right now we're just on Amazon.
There you go.
So
Wow. It's what's interesting is why do you think, Jennifer, so many people write books after their career or during the end of their career, and they just love writing books? Do you think it's a therapeutic thing, Jennifer? I mean, especially looking at writing different type of genre than their career.
I think there's a cathartic or a therapeutic part of it. I also think there's just that creative side of the brain is trying to get out and do something. If you're having to always deal with stuff, the heavy stuff, it's nice to be able to let that creative side do something and flow. And perhaps through writing is a good way to express that. And you sort of get out both sides. And I think it's there, for a lot of writers. I think maybe that's what Karen's got going on.
What do you
I
think, Aaron?
actually,
Yeah.
I actually I kind of already did um, writing throughout my life. I was a nerd, and so I went to UVA early, about age 16,
Mm.
and published 3 journal articles in 3 different fields. And
Wow.
then I published a law review article, and I always wanted to write, and I was always kind of into science fiction too. But finding your voice is harder, and I think as people grow older, they often find the voice that they didn't have as they were younger. And so I sort of always thought, well, I don't know how to write a story.
Mm.
And honestly, it was my years of editing novels that helped me, take that step myself. In part seeing, well, here's what works and here's what very definitely doesn't work. So it was kind of all the way, it was kind of, there. It was just having that moment. And I think some people with age, some people that brings wisdom and, an ability to sort of say, okay, yeah, I do have something to say, and I really do have something to put on paper.
There you
And by
go.
the way, your book is amazing. I read it in 2 sittings only because I had some work I had to do.
I
Otherwise, I
appreciate
would have
that.
just kept reading.
I appreciate that very much. And I am almost done. I am not there yet, but I am fascinated. And we talked about it as to far as genres go. And I thought, okay, I know this is more my husband's genre. He's done space and the sci-fi, but I kind of I'm just going on down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh, yeah, oh wow. And I'm wondering, where does she get these ideas? And I'm thinking, did she just like wake up one morning and this was something she dreamed, or is this something that she plotted out for years? So tell me.
Funny that you mentioned that. I'd actually been sort of thinking about this type of you know and I'm trying not to get into spoilers. This kind of world where these different species are brought together,
Right.
not necessarily voluntarily. And so when I was writing the book, I felt like I was liberating my characters from prison.
Mm.
Like, oh, I see you, I'm coming, hurry up, I'll get you on the page, we'll get you out of my head, we're going to put you on the page, go free, go free.
Pick me next.
So you're next, you're in line. And so kind of, but I think that being part of that law enforcement world, and I never actually was in danger. Like as the prosecutor, even if we go on ride-alongs or even if we go to scenes, we aren't actually out there putting our lives in danger. We aren't actually, for example, giving a death notification. We're not, we're not in that um, intense world, but we do, I think, have a sense of the way the world is that a lot of people don't have. We
Okay.
see a side of the world, and I think what that brought to me was a need for truth in fiction. Um, and I don't mean that there can't be space aliens, clearly, and time travel and all these things and
Sure.
telepathy that can't possibly happen, but I mean that you have to get things right.
That's true.
Police officers, detectives, they want to get it right.
Okay.
Prosecutors want to
Yeah.
get it right. So you want to make sure that the truth is coming out. So going to cops and writers helped me in that way,
Yeah.
make sure that I didn't write untruths in a book just because we know that, there aren't great big giant talking telepathic spiders.
Yet.
There's, yeah, my God, you haven't seen my fridge. I'm kidding. But in terms of wanting things to be real, and not being disrespectful to the reader, but also to the police community, I found that page to be extremely helpful. Cops and writers
Yeah.
in helping me get that reality in the law enforcement side.
Yeah.
They actually
Eh.
helped me nuke one chapter.
Mm.
It was
Yeah.
totally unreal. It could not have happened in the police world.
So when you get a book out, what do you like? It's the challenge is then finding people that are interested. What do you seen who are the best readers for you for your book?
It's funny. First off, I didn't have a marketing plan, and the contact the task for any author, no matter how good the book is, no one's going to read it if they haven't heard of it. And so the real contest is that. I actually found a couple of my readers at my martial arts training center.
Oh,
I have a second-degree black belt in a form of Krav Maga, which is an Israeli martial art. And we have a training center, and it's about 30 to 35% active military and law enforcement. And so the instructors have gone and they've trained with police officers, they've trained them, and also I think they've been to Israel to the IDF. And so actually one of my instructors read the book and is talking about it. And in fact, I was
Good.
there last night and they all mentioned it. And I'm like, okay, so it's kind of this
Good.
gritty reading, population and nerds. It appeals to nerds for some reason too at the same time.
It's good for it to appeal to nerds. I gotta ask a question. I want to talk to you about the marketing, but and we're gonna put it on you. You have a female main character, just so people know,
Yes.
which is great. I mean, I think that aligns and it's great. And of course, it's a detective. When you're creating your fictional characters, do you have a hard time coming up with names?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
When I first sent out the very one of the early drafts before it went to the editor.
Yeah.
And my uncle goes, everyone's names sound alike. You've got to stop this. Yes. So
Yeah.
having to go back and I mean, Eliza was named ironically after Eliza Schlesinger. I'm mispronouncing her name. She's
Okay.
my favorite comedian because
Mhm.
she's absolutely hysterical and in a sort of, almost sort of sometimes dark sort of way as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it was tough.
Oh, I just noticed all your names, and I'm just like, where did she get these names for these people? But then I thought, my mind would lose track of who's who. I'd have to have a storyboard all the way around me for every character and they keep their name going. But I thought it was great. I mean, it's like this is not Dick and Jane. This is much more inventive. And now, we've been talking about getting out to, book signing because we talked about the one that's coming up in Suffolk, Virginia, and it's a big annual event. I just learned about it, too late to get signed up for it, but I'm expecting to see you there next year because
Yes, I'm looking
yeah.
forward to it.
But the book signings, because you say that the folks at your gym, at your martial arts, that they are gravitating towards you now and towards the book a little bit and talking about it. And I find so far that going out and meeting people and talking about the book works wonders. I keep books in my vehicle, so every time I got to get out and we mention it, I'll hand somebody my little bookmarkers, which are a little bit bigger than a business card. The next thing you know, they're asking me questions about it, and I'm like, "Well, I've got one in the vehicle. Oh, can I see it?" And then a sale. It's like, okay, yeah, all right.
That is that's an idea. I mean, and I mean, it's strange for, when I was practicing law, I could stand in front of a jury and be perfectly comfortable in front of a jury. You could hand me a microphone, put me in a full football stadium and say, talk. On what? No, just talk. And I would be fine. But like going into a social situation is an entirely, it's a very daunting kind of
It
thing.
hits. It hits, but so far it's been good. I've got a couple more coming up. I've got one where I've got to read chapter 3 out of my book. So I'm hoping not to get overly emotional because the crowd there is going to be attached to some of the people in that chapter, and that's going to make it rough. But that's on mine. But with yours, I mean, you need to find yourself a crowd of nerds. You're going to have to go back to the college campuses.
It's just, yeah, yeah, and yeah, and that's going to be interesting. Yes,
Yeah.
just getting out there and I think that the fact that it's kind of gritty in terms of, there's fighting and violence and stuff, I think. And that it's done right has also appealed to, and that the police work is done right. There are
Yeah.
police officers who are reading it as well, because thanks to cops and writers, just because you're a prosecutor, it really
Yeah.
doesn't make you a cop. And so getting those details right was a big deal.
I think it's there and stuff and all. I need my teenage kids, my grandkids to get just a little bit older, only because I want they're not they like the sci-fi and they like that sort of thing, but I'm not really ready for them to have the law enforcement side. So I'm going to let them get over to the 18.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and it's funny because my mom, who's 84,
yeah,
is an avid reader. She's got dementia now, but she still reads and doesn't
good for
remember
her.
what she reads. But I told her about it, and I said, yes, you can have a copy, but you are not to read it because it's definitely it's got so much, you know, so much combat and so much
Yeah,
of that.
it's a little bit more. I mean, it's not Star Wars, and that's it's not. And I also with my book, I didn't want my grandkids to read it yet, and everybody understands that. And had a law enforcement friend who was talking about wanting his daughter to read because he was thinking whatever. And I said, hang on a second. I don't let my teenage grandkids. And I was just kind of wondering how old. And he said, she's 14. And I said, I would think that you might want to hold back, you know, but I appreciate that. I said, because there is some stuff in that book that might be just a lot for a 14-year-old. And
They are, and what's scary is they kind of are exposed today to
they are.
at such a young age. I and yes, there's a couple crime scenes in my book, and I even despite that, I don't know that, if my you know child were younger, would I have agreed, this is something you should absolutely read. On the other hand, um, if they were in high school, probably, particularly since your book, just as mine does, sort of approaches the ethics
Right.
of um, how to avoid violence, um, you know, the search for truth, and in a more moral framework.
Yeah. There's that.
And although without being preachy, I mean, your book is,
No, it's not morally gray. I mean, at least you know which side I fall down on and
yeah,
which side is, what's going on. And I think it's the same in yours. And you're seeing what Eliza is going through and what she's faced up with, and you just get to throw a couple of space scenarios in there with it and everything. But
one of the things about science fiction is that it has been from day one this kind of subversive way to discuss social issues,
hmm
but you're not doing it in, it's kind of in a more fictional context, so you can explore things about how people interact, how we interact with the environment around us, um, and the mechanics of actually in the moment. How are you supposed to talk to people? How are you supposed to treat people? How do you understand people so that you don't get into a fight? Can you see something from someone else's point of view without caving into,
hmm,
well, yeah, it's okay. These monsters want to go eat people. Well, we can't interfere with that. We don't have we have to learn how to make those distinctions between, when are we going to understand and accept, and when we say enough is enough. And those are the types of things that you can explore in a science fiction context that you might not be able to do so much in more, true,
yeah,
here on earth fiction, because it gets a little too hot buttony when you do it
All
that
right.
way.
that's true.
Well, Jennifer, this is a great conversation. I really think to see that you have a diverse background. Did anyone ever tell you that, Karen? You really
Yeah.
all over there. And can our listeners and viewers check you out and purchase your book? Where can they go?
You can go to Amazon. I do have a website. I've got Betelgeuse Books. That's the publishing company. But I also have a website, catherreddit.com. But if you want to buy the book, you go to Amazon.
All right. Fantastic. We really appreciate you. What is your ultimate goal for your readers?
I want them I want it to be an escape, and I want them to feel like they've had a good time after they've read it, but maybe learn some things. But I think I want them to see the world in a little bit of a different way.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. All right. Well, fantastic. We appreciate you coming on. Go, and then Jennifer, we can go purchase your book right now.
Go
Yep.
purchase her book
It's all
right
over
now.
there. Becoming
Yeah.
Fire. It's everywhere.
Becoming Fire.
You see it.
Here it is, Becoming
right.
Fire. It is out there and it
Yeah.
is available.
And go to jenniferclarkeeskew.com to purchase that
Yes.
book. Appreciate it, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karin.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
y'all.
You're listening and watching the Neil Haley